Well, that's good to have. Things to get
That was so tense. People can be
They just gotta wait like 10 to 14 days on the fence. They have dogs in it.
I just thought it was this, you know, the
Yes, that's right.
Show that to me.
Good, how are you? That's only been the last couple of days. They could work straight up and start doing it.
That's what they're kind of. I thought that you the big one. Now y'all are not.
Very respectful to women. That's pretty brave to be at an airport in 2000 world. picked up on CBDs. But here's the deal, if you are, because see now my see, I left when they just
Maybe with some of that stuff, it's children.
We can use the college road, right? 15 minutes, like a fence or something.
That's right, let's go. Yeah.
That's only for the just sort of this extra.
Specialized
No, it's oh, yeah. We were talking, she's on the handbook committee.
Where are you, sir?
But Greg wasn't, so the handbook committee read it. And we were talking about just things as simple as you have to go to drug tests, so now they're having to change how drugs are being used. They're gonna have to be, I don't know if you can retrain or you have to get rid of it. So that's gonna have to make sense and just, and get somebody. Because I know it doesn't apply. So, somebody asked, I heard with the legislation, and it just confuses everybody. I guess that's.
No, I mean, what they're saying, one place is different than what your bill says, different than what you're hearing. But it was
Well, like, a lot of just like everything else. Yeah, but he loves
All we lost is
This is going to be the same thing. On their way into that.
and I saw Brandon and spoke to him on that, and his understanding was that David would sign this. Back from vacation, he has time. I didn't get a call.
How's that? You heard from him? He charged you consulting fee every time.
I don't know if we can do it a contingent upon.
If I need something.
You know, I graduated from Brandon High School, but that was my very last year of high school, and I only been there 1 year. I was originally from the Tulsa area. hopped around just a little bit, so we got three different high schools. But I went to Southeastern, started calling here home, you know, and it's been home ever since.
Oh, so I only got one. Sorry. What's our total? I got your pen. You were looking for it, weren't you? Where is it? Oh. I was looking plumb past that. Just turn that on? Okay. Okay. Entertain a motion to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, we're back in regular session, and item 1B, we'll have no action this evening. Entertain a motion to adjourn out of a special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, we're adjourned out of the special city council meeting. Any- Okay. Is James here, Dalton? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, thank you. Ready on the right, ready on the left? Let the record show it is 6:24. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Durant City Council of July the 10th, 2018. Ask that Chief Hauser, if you would lead us in an invocation. And if you can stand, please stand and remain standing for our flag salute led by Councilmember Odin Groby.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the wonderful weather that you've given us. Thank you for every good thing that you've done for us in the city of Durant. Lord, I ask for your wisdom and your influence on the decisions that are being made here tonight. I thank you for the employee service awards and the tenure that each one of these employees have shown us, and we celebrate their time with us as a city employee today. We value that. Lord, as we progress through this meeting, Lord, we just ask for your guidance, your wisdom, and civility throughout the meeting. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you can be seated. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Here.
Councilmember Groby.
Here.
Councilmember Dills.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock is absent. Mayor Tomlinson.
Here. For the record, we have a quorum. We are missing the vice mayor, but I think he's probably having a fun evening
On the beach.
on the beach somewhere. Sure, he's thinking about us.
He is. He sent me a text to let me know he's on the beach.
Our first order of business this evening, and most of the folks in the audience may be familiar, but every quarter we recognize our employees with an Employee Service Award. This is the second quarter edition of our recognition, and we've got a combined 105 years of dedicated service to our city and to the citizens. We've got 4 5-year ones, 1 15-year, 1 20-year, and 2 25-year service awards. So that's pretty remarkable. Cindy, where you at? You already down? Oh, okay. I'd like to ask council members, if they would, and city manager to join us right down here. I think we've got several of them here this evening, right? And they've, okay, just those 3? Okay. Okay, we'll begin with the 5-year service awards. And they will receive a certificate and a pen and a check for $50. And our first recipient is Sean Watkins with our street department. Sean, you're here somewhere, aren't you? No? They're going to learn, James, that you get that check, they got a hard time getting it from them. Anyway,
He lives out of town, so.
Sean is our first recipient. Accepting on his behalf is James Young, our street department. We're going to get pictures. We're going to get pictures. Mike, you going to get pictures? Well, then I guess we'll dispense with the picture then. We could Photoshop him in, you know. But anyway, thank Sean for us, James. Our next recipient, 5 years, is with our police department. Again, receiving a certificate, a pen, and a check for $50. Jeremy Brooks. Jeremy's here. Come on up here, young man. Corporal Jeremy Brooks. Congratulations, young man. Come over here and get a picture, okay? Where'd I go? It's wherever you want. You're in uniform. You can go wherever you want to go. Here you go, right here. Got it? Thank you, Jeremy. Another police department employee with 5 years, certificate, a pen, and $50 check, Michael Goodlow. Michael's here. There he is. Hey, come on up here, family. Come on up here, please. Hey, Michael, congratulations, young man. Tell him to get up here. Come on, we're going to take a, come on, hon. We don't bite, none of us. Beautiful family.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Hi, guys. Who's the boss here? I think so. Ready? St. Olin Mills here. Let's go. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Our next recipient, and I don't think Bradley was able to make it, but also with our police department, a fine local officer, a certificate, a pen, and $50 check. Bradley Nelson. Did Brad make it, Chief? Okay. Oh, he is. Okay. Well, he could have used that $50, couldn't he? Yeah. Okay. Come on up and get it for him, Chief, if you would.
On behalf of Bradley Nelson, thank you, guys.
Thank you. We thank him. Now we move to a 15-year recipient with our police department. These guys are sweeping the awards tonight. A certificate, a pen, and a check for $150. And Randall Cheney. Randall's here, yeah. All right, he's got the boss too. Congratulations, Randall. Yes, sir. We have a 20-year recipient, also in our police department, and they will receive a plaque, a certificate, a pen, and a check for $200. Did Billy Jones didn't make it. Anyway, Billy Jones is our guy.
I'll give you the plaque, pen.
Don't forget that. Not necessarily in that order, Chief. And we have two 25-year recipients. Again, both of them in the police department. Known both these guys several years. We're proud of both of them. Proud of everybody. But 25 years receives a plaque, a certificate, and a pen and a check for $250. And isn't it Captain Chris? Captain Chris Cisco is our first recipient. Chris isn't here, but vacation as well. Okay. But yes, sir. Thank you. Chief, you're not sending them on vacation, are you? Or, so that okay. And here's a guy that 25 years, not only in service to his city, but to his country as well. A plaque, a certificate, a pen, $250. Joe Seaburn. Lieutenant. Cindy, where'd you go? That concludes it, doesn't it? On behalf of the City Council, City Manager, and everybody, thank you to all employees for your service, every one of you. Appreciate you. I see someone in the audience that I left a very nice thank you, appreciation kind of card out in my pickup, Mr. Mike Davis. My apology, but on behalf of the council, Mike wrote a very nice thank you. Help me remember the Rotary Club's annual bike ride for the Magnolia Festival. Appreciative of all the efforts of our police department guys and all the folks that assisted in that. And thank you for a very nice thank you note, Mike. Appreciate it. Okay, are we at item number 2? We are under item number 2, under consent items. For those in the audience, these are to help streamline our meetings, allows focus to be on items requiring more time. The consent item portion of the agenda groups the routine, procedural, self-explanatory items together. These items are voted on in a single motion and one vote. However, any council member may request further information on a specific item and can remove it from the consent docket for individual attention on a separate vote. We have items 1A or 2A. We've got, okay, through J. Are there any to be removed for consideration under item number 3? Okay. Item number J will be considered under item number 3. Are there others or any others? Hearing none, I'll consider a motion for the consent docket.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby. Aye. Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Under item number 3, we will consider items removed from the consent docket, and that was item number J. Consideration to approve corrected easements for water and wastewater infrastructure improvements related to 17166 CDBG ED 87 C-2018-17 benefiting Steel Fab Inc. project. Becca?
Yes, this is the easements related to the Steel Fab project, and because we had to send them back to Steel Fab for some correction, and there was some back and forth between attorneys, Steel Fab has not signed them as of today. However, Brandon just received a text from Mr. Garrett, the CEO, and he will be here Friday to sign them. So I'd like to request your approval to be contingent upon that final signature by Steel Fab. If that's okay, Tom?
So we're waiting on a signature from someone?
Yes, David
And-
Garrett with
and we
Steel Fab will
gain
be here
that.
Friday.
Is there
So-
any action for us to take once we gain that?
I think the council can approve the easements, and they'll just be contingent upon the signature of both parties. So,
Both parties being,
well, contingent upon the signature of Steel Fab's president
Okay.
granting the city the easement.
okay. And I think the city the city attorneys can assist in seeing that that's done. Okay.
I'll move to approve contingent upon Steel Fab providing a signature on the corrected easements.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby. Aye. Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. We now move to item number 4 under the agenda, under administration. 4A is consider approval of the collective bargaining agreement of the International Association of Firefighters, IAFF, and Mr. Greg Buckley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. The collective bargaining agreement is for fiscal year 18-19, which begins July 1. Had good negotiations. Very pleased with the cooperation from with the union and working through some language cleanup and reaching agreement. So I would recommend approval or answer any questions.
Council members have any questions for Mr. Buckley? We have a recommendation from Mr. Buckley. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Item 4B, consider approval of collecting bargaining agreement with Fraternal Order of Police, FOP, Local 116 for fiscal year 2018-19, and authorize the mayor to sign agreement or take any other appropriate action. Mr. Buckley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is the collective bargaining agreement with the FOP. Again, we met several times, had good negotiations between the parties. We were able to do some language cleanup, address several articles, as well as reach an agreement on wages. So I would also recommend approval. We'll be available to answer any specific questions.
Any questions for Mr. Buckley?
Move to approve.
Motion
I second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Greg. Takes us to item number C. Consider approval of whoops. Okay, that will require no action this evening. Sorry. Takes us to item 4D. Consider approval of a 3-year agreement with Arledge and Associates for annual auditing services per the fee schedule, and authorize city manager to sign the agreement or take any other appropriate action. Greg, you're up again.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. The council had requested, and we've had discussion related to how often we go out for bid and on our auditing services. So staff, through the direction of council, went out for bid. We advertised in the paper, on OML, and also within our vendor list, and actually submitted RFPs out to, I think it was 18, we had 19 total. We had 3 requests come in that saw the advertisement and requested a copy of the RFP. We actually had 1 submittal, which was Arledge and Associates, out of all the proposals that had been sent out. Arledge and Associates has been our current auditor. They've done a good job. They have an understanding of our finances and our finance structure. So I would recommend that we renew or approve a 3-year agreement with Arledge and Associates per the fee schedule. It starts out, they went up a couple percentage each year, but it starts, I think, about $30,000 and then ends up at about $35,500 or $36,500.
Mr. Buckley, do
Yes, ma'am.
we not have any type of whatever in place so that if we only get 1 bid, we send it back out, or do we take that 1 bid?
It's actually up to the body of council. As staff, we can only bring the bids that we get. In some cases, we get lots of bids, in some cases, we don't. We can't force people to come and do business with us or submit bids. But it's, you know, up to council then to give staff direction on what action you'd like to take. We can go out and try again, and we may end up getting more bids, or we may end up getting 0 bids, because vendors that have spent the time and energy to actually submit a bid to then go, well, if you're not going to consider me, then I'm not going to try again.
What about, have we ever done a 3-year contract with an auditor?
Yes.
I personally feel like since we've had this auditor for 7 or 8 years, that I would recommend just doing a 1-year contract at this time. That would be my recommendation, instead of locking us into a 3-year contract.
And again, that's up to the body of council. If you start to go out and bid every year, then there's no consistency or understanding that, you know, they're going to be able to have the work. So they may or may not bid again next year. So when you know you start to churn that over, it doesn't mean that we'll get other interested parties next year than we have in the last year, but then it becomes an effort, and so then you could end up having a price increase because they're expending time and energy to put an RFP together. So when they know that we're going to have to do this every year, they're going to build that cost in. When they know that they have that work for 3 years, then we know what our fixed fee is, and they know that that work is there, so they're not having to expend that extra time and energy every year to determine whether or not they're going to get a contract.
That's a good sales job.
Well, and whether it's the auditor or another
Right.
contract, I'm outlining the specifics related to bidding out, and when you can have multi-year contracts for professional services, there's a benefit to that for both parties. Not that, again, it's council's preference. We'll be happy to do it again next year if you want. I just want to make sure that council is fully aware of the circumstances, with full knowledge of the impact that may have.
And I have nothing against who's been doing our audit. I just know that our state auditor, when he was here several years ago, that was one of the requests they made, that we change every 2 or 3 years, that they thought it was a good idea. Not that we had to, but it just was a good idea, business-wise, to get a new set or different set of eyes. That was my only concern.
And I would echo that, every 2 or 3 years that we need to go out to bid, whether or not we change or not, because it does ensure that we're reviewing the aspect in the work, and we're staying current to the market price, and being able to see what else is out there. So, I mean, we have done that in the past in other cities I've worked in, and we've able to decrease it as it's gone up because there is new competition. But I mean, there's pros and cons, but we should at least go out to bid at least every 3 years to see what else is out there.
And I'm not opposed to going out for bids every couple of years, but changing just because we've used this company for too long, I think that would set a precedent, because we don't do it in other situations. We're going to limit how long we can contract with any entity. We don't do that anywhere else that I'm aware of. Because I'm just trying to make sure that I understand correctly. It's because we've been with them for a certain amount of time that we should look to move to someone else.
Well, no one else bid, and since they didn't, I would just recommend that we just stay with this company 1 year instead of a 3-year contract.
Well, I think the bid, the RFP was for a 3-year, and that's what they've proposed. And Councilman Hawthorne is correct. And I'm not aware of any other. I'm not aware of any change for change's sake that we do. I think we go through the bid process, and that's what we're required to do by state statute. And I don't have any problem with a 3-year contract. I think in most contracts, there's always I'm not sure the right word, but with the proper notice, that contracts can be redone or ceased.
Have an exit clause?
Yeah, an exit clause, that's the right word. But I think Greg is appropriately mentioned that, you know, in that 3-year process, I'm sure there's a consideration on the cost. We'd probably be looking at higher numbers. But to change for change's sake, I don't know but what would be in violation of the state statutes, particularly if we did have 2 bids, or and this was still the better one.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, it's certainly within the authority of this council to approve an auditor's contract for 1 year, but that's not on the agenda tonight. You would have to go back out for bid, with that being the understanding that it's only a 1-year contract, because almost certainly these numbers would change. So this respondent has, you know, placed an offer on the table with the understanding that it's 3 years. So if it's the council's pleasure to go out for 1 year, that needs to be put back out for bid under those terms.
Which would be another 90-day process, roughly?
Roughly.
How long is it before we actually need the auditor?
Once we provide notification, they'll start, well, they've got to go through September. The auditor, technically by law, has to be done by December 31st. So they'll be starting as soon as we end. If council awards it tonight, we'll provide notice, and they'll start doing preparation work. Crawford & Associates will assist with year-end closeout, and they'll start putting the numbers together so they can schedule. Another 90 days will impact, because most auditors will have booked work out through the rest of this year. We may or may not get an audit by December 1st. I think the history for Durant, it's been March, April, May. So the longer we delay, the further back that is. And getting past January, into January of 2019, can impact our motor fuel tax and our grant money.
So we're required to have an audit every year. If we don't follow through with this now, this could potentially put us behind on our annual audit.
Yes.
And if I may, I don't see, if we went back out for bid again and say this time we only want a 1-year bid, we're going to have a ton of firms chomping at the bit to do a 1 year. I mean, if we can't get them, 3-year is an incentive for them to put out an RFP, and if they're not going to do it for 3, it's going to be much more difficult, I think, to find one just for 1 year.
I would be surprised if we get anything more than Arledge.
Arledge back.
But also be concerned, regardless of how things go, we're still going to have a new treasurer coming on board, and then do we want to have a new treasurer coming on board and a new auditor? Doesn't sound like a very good practice to me.
It would be a challenge.
I'll move to approve a 3-year agreement with Arledge & Associates.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second? Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Nay.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4E. Consider approval of utility audit agreement, if I say this right, Amerisco, Inc., through the Interlocal Purchasing System, TIPS, or take other appropriate action.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have been working through, sort of stepping up, trying to go through and update all our meters to called an automated meter reading system, AMR or AMI. And through that process, we've had discussions with Ameresco, who can do that project. They also look at doing energy audits for water meters, pumps, electricity, just general operations that can end up having cost savings associated with operations and upgrading to more energy efficient, and then the projects that create the cost savings, offset and pay for any of the improvements for the upgrades. So this is sort of the first stage in identifying those energy savings, the potential for those types of projects. So this has their engineers come in, look at all our light bulbs, look at all our pumps, look at our motors. They will do a sampling of our existing water meters to see what type of loss we're seeing related to that, on what the impact would be for additional revenue or potential additional revenue from new meters. And so this would create then those projects when identify what recommendations they have for projects for energy savings, and then potential cost savings associated with that beyond what the cost would be for those improvements. If there is no cost associated with them doing the audit pursuant to us engaging into one or more of the energy saving projects, we already really know that we want to do and pursue upgrades to speeding up doing the AMR across the city. So we already know that we strongly want to have that interest, but then if there's other additional projects, then there's no cost associated for this audit. If we end up deciding that we're not going to do any project or go with Ameresco at all, there is I think it's an $85,000 or $88,000, I think it's $85,000 cost for their time and services to give us an energy report on what our energy costs are and potential savings. We do have Representative Randy Wills from Ameresco here that can also answer any more specific questions. I know mine's like tip of the iceberg of understanding, but if you have specific questions on process and function, he is here to be able to answer any of those specific questions.
And he also has other cities that he can attest to that he's done the similar audits, and as the Mr. Buckley stated, this is not just an energy efficiency for the water meter system, but lights, all the buildings, all the things that we're looking at overall and doing an improvement. And by using less energy, using the savings for that to help offset the cost for the new AMR system, as well as some other things too. We realize if we have the AMR system, it's going to have an impact for us as far as having to have fewer meter readers, maybe down to just one at that time. And we'll start, if this is approved by council and we do go with the AMR system, we'll start migrating the employees from the meter reading department, over into other positions, primarily probably with Public Works. So there'll be some savings there as well. So, and if Randy wants to come up and.
Well, and Greg, how long, a couple of questions, the
Yes,
time
sir.
frame on the study, and I think you've already answered the other, but one of the projects would be the AMR, is that right?
Yes.
But what's the time frame?
Time frame, we were looking at about 90 days
Max, yes.
for them to complete their report and get back to council. Then all of this would come back to council to authorize us to move forward with any one specific project or multiple. So this is an authorization for doing any of the projects. This is just authorization to initiate Ameresco to do the audit itself. Everything else will come back to council for the final report and then what decision to move forward with.
Do I understand, though, that if they do the audit and we don't accept it, then we're charged? Is that?
Yes, ma'am.
So coming back, if we decide we don't want, and I'm not real sure what you want to do, I'm sorry. I know you want to do an audit of all this, but does that mean we're going to start letting your company, if we accept this, are we going to farm it out, I guess is a simple way I know how to put it.
To answer your question, Ameresco, we're the largest ESCO in the United States, actually the world now, which is an energy service company. The idea behind the investment grade audit, the IGA, is to bring together our expertise, which is our members are all either structural, mechanical, electrical engineers, professional engineers. So we've got tremendous background in this, is to bring you all, the city, a program that is budget neutral, which means the savings pays for the program itself, as well as and upgrade your city to, I hate to say the 22nd century, but it's going to make us more of a smart city because you're going to be able to read all of your meters in the city in a matter of minutes now. It's going to eliminate rereads. It's going to eliminate termination reads, final readings. You'll all be able to do it from a fixed-based system. The other thing that we do look at is street lights. We look at the LED street lights. We look at interior lights, controls, HVAC, as Greg said, pumps, motors. And so we're going to bring you back a program that is, there's three options. That fee, if you will, we refer to it as a back-out fee. And what the back-out fee means, there's three options. If we go out and we do all this work, we bring you back a program that pays for itself, as we stated, budget neutral, so there's zero capital up front needed. And you decide you want to do the program, we are the general contractor. We are totally responsible for everything. Then that money, that back-out fee is absorbed into the contract itself as part of our engineering fee, which we've already done. Number two option is we do all the work, we come back, and we cannot provide you with a budget neutral program that doesn't cost you anything. Savings pays for it, and there's no capital. If we cannot provide you that, we walk away. You do not charge. We don't charge you. We eat that money. That if we can't provide you with a program that we said we can, then that engineering fee is on us. The only way the city would be charged is if we go out, we do all the work, we bring back the city programs that pay for themselves, budget neutral, as Greg said, water meters, AMI, street lights, interior lights, mechanical, anything that we do, we're going to present those as a list, if you will, a shopping list. And then if you guys decide that you're not going to do any of the programs, you will be charged.
And then what was that fee again?
It's number-wise?
Yes.
It's $85,000.
And also, if you do come back, and we do, I mean, if we do decide to let you do the audit and you do come back, what is the fee after that?
It'll be whatever the program cost. We don't know what that is. We don't know, for example, we don't know how many light fixtures you have without doing that. We don't know. We have an idea, but we don't know exactly how the meters, as we don't know your water loss. That's the problem. That's one of the things that we do as far as this, as part of the engineering study, is we'll actually go out in the field and we'll pull a sample. It's usually 65 to 75 residential meters. And so we'll take those, we pull them out, we put in new meters so that the customers are not without water. And then we send those off to a third-party, certified third-party lab for exact water loss on those fixtures. We don't do it ourselves. We don't put it on our benches. We don't use your benches. We send them to a certified third-party lab. So we get back the exact things. From there, we have a very good idea of what the savings are going to be. You're using a positive displacement meter, which is they get sand, they get grit, they get dirt, and they degrade down. The new meters that we'll be replacing them with are ultrasonic meters, and we guarantee those meters for, number one, accuracy of 98.5% for 20 years. We also guarantee the workmanship for 20 years also. So, does that answer any?
Well, it does. I'm still scared, though. It scares me to think that we won't know what we're going to owe, and that's kind of like buying a house.
Well, if I could be bold and say what you're going to owe, if we don't bring you a program that pays for itself, budget neutral, which means if you're paying $100,000 in utilities right now, and we come back and we bring you a program that now the cost of utilities and the cost of this program is $100,000 or less, you're not obligated to take the program. So I guess the easiest way to say it is the answer would be zero.
So that's where that 85,000 is absorbed?
We absorb that into our cost of the program, yes. Let me just, Wichita Falls, we just finished that. It's been online for a year. It was 37,000 water meters, an AMI system, and it was a $15 million project. We did that. We financed it over 20 years. We just finished our first year, and documented savings was $1.3 million. So it paid, you know, their payment is right at $1 million a year. Their savings was $1.3 million a year. So not only did it pay for the program, it also put $300,000 positive cost avoidance into their bank account. So the object of this program is to upgrade your city infrastructure. And it may be street lights, it may be interior lights. We know that the water and the AMI system is a huge factor because you're having a lot of water loss there. So we know that the savings are there to pay for the program. Can't tell you how much the program, maybe $3 million, maybe $2 million, maybe $5 million. But I will tell you this, if the savings does not pay for it, you're not obligated for it. That's our program. This whole IGA or investment grade audit is to say, if we bring you a program that is budget neutral, so it doesn't cost you any capital and it doesn't cost you any more than you are paying currently in those areas, you're not obligated for it.
Any other questions from council members?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, if I may. So once the audit is done, Ameresco comes back with estimated savings if you take certain steps. What kind of guarantee is there on the back end that those savings are actually realized?
We are as far as the savings, we guarantee that first of all, that the program will be budget neutral. I can't tell you, I can't guarantee a flood. I can't guarantee a drought. I'm just saying that based on we do a lot of base year. So we're going to, in part of that audit, we're going to take the last 3 years of your utilities and we'll design a base year. So going forward, for example, on the lighting, if that light, that fixture is 184 watts and we're going to take it to 80 watts, we'll guarantee that will only be 80 watts. So there's a lot of stipulations in there, which we do wattages, we do voltages, the water itself, water meters, we will know exactly what your gallons loss is. We'll know exactly what you're going forward. The only thing that we can't guarantee is the weather. But based on your normal things is we guarantee that the 98.5% accuracy, to make sure that we do that going on the backside like you're talking about, is within the first 3 years, we will come back, we will pull another sample set of meters to exactly say how much how much savings are there.
I guess my question is not so much with the meters, but with the books. Is if we implement the recommended changes, modifications, and it turns out not to be budget neutral, but we spent more than we're saving, do you guys have a guarantee that
to answer your question, yes. If your hours and usage for your baseline. Now, if you put in a subdivision or 1,000 new residents, that's going to go up. We always revert back to the base year, what your current status is. So I cannot, to going forward, based on this, what you're currently spending, that's where we're going to be a budget neutral on. So to answer your question, do we guarantee? We guarantee the accuracy, which is going to bring, it's at 98.5%, which is going to give you your savings. On the electrical, we will guarantee the savings on the electrical usage, so that, for example, on your, if you're spending right now on the items that we do, if you're spending $100,000 a year, and with our retrofits that we put in there and put new stuff, new technology, if it's at $80,000 a year, we will guarantee that difference and we'll write you a check for the difference on that electricity. That electricity is a lot different than water. Water, we can show you on your base year and on the accuracy.
What
Because
about,
again, yes,
what
sir.
about as far as the citizens here in town, as far as their water bill going up? That's the first thing it's gonna ask us. Well, is that gonna make our water bills go up?
You're going to be a lot more accurate, so the average what we've seen, and we do about $750 million a year of this every year. So you're going to see, you're going to be more accurate, so your revenue is going to go up. But we look at 3 to 4% is what, now that's on where your residents, they're probably going to see a slight increase. If someone's spending $30 a month in water, they're probably going to see a $32 to $33 a month bill. It's going to go up $2 or $3 a month at the, it's 3 to 5%.
That's based on the accuracy of the meter.
Correct.
Not us raising the rates. It's just,
Yeah, you're not raising your rates. It's
if you got a meter in the ground that's 25, 30 years, we know that that thing is not running accurately. It's just, they're mechanical, and over time and age, meters wear out, and we know and that's where he's talking about the losses too. We know with less accurate meters, we're losing, like any business, any good business would want to do, is to capture the actual sales. And if we've got losses in our meters, and we know that they're out there, and we're not, reading them accurately. And I should add that this conversation started, 3, 4, or 5 months ago, when we were looking at an AMR system altogether. And for us to put in an AMR system just by ourselves, we would definitely have to take out some sort of financing to be able to afford to buy all the meters and stuff. We have close to 7,000 customers for us to go out and to replace every single meter and do that. And that's kind of what engaged the conversation with Randy can we look at not just the accuracy of our water loss, but maybe all of our energy losses that are out there too. There's some things that we may be able to do to capture that and make them more efficient overall. So,
Tim, would we be replacing all of our water meters?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
oh yeah,
Every water meter?
Well, you've got some up there.
we've got a few that are
we have been systematically over the last few years buying AMR meters and putting them in the ground as we're getting new subdivisions put in, replacing water meters. So we have a percentage that are, less than 5 years old.
Do you know how many that is, Greg?
No.
it's
I would like to say, but our records are, some of those meters go back, we know
mean,
that
the
we've
new
got
ones, how
20
many
to
new
25.
How many new ones we have?
Jay.
Yeah, there's about 185 or so AMR meters in the ground. That's just flat residential rate meters. We also have some commercial AMRs that are already in the ground as well, but it's not even over 200 meters.
So we have over 6,600 accounts,
Yeah.
and so you'd be looking at over 6,000 more meters to be replaced. Now, we wouldn't do it, but we would have somebody else install them. Cool.
Go ahead.
What is the cost of a residential AMR meter?
$235.
How much?
$235.
And
That's just the meter. That's not time and energy to installing or.
Okay, so if you figure the 235 plus, and you make up 3% a year on a $50, $25 water bill, how long does it take to recover the cost for that?
For example, as I just said with Wichita Falls, they spent $15 million. It doesn't cost them anything each year. The savings, the revenue they're increasing, they're getting 1.3 million. Their bill is $1 million on the finance. There's $300,000 a year cash flow on top of paying for this system. So that's the thing that we look at, is putting together a total solution project.
And you're reducing your manpower in your meter reader division too. Like I said, I think we could probably go down to one meter reader that can do turn-ons, turn-offs, and eventually the technology's out there, and we're getting pretty close where we could actually do turn-ons and turn-offs from here. So,
And you can now.
Yeah.
With the special meter, you can do an automatic shut-off.
The other customer service benefit related to an AMR is right now, we know what the reading is once a month. On an AMR system, we know what the meter reading is because it reads every 15 minutes. And so it takes 90, it'll store between 60 and 90 days worth of data. And on a fixed-base system, we can actually ping that meter and see what that reading is within the last 15 minutes. So that history data actually gets pulled in consistently. So when somebody comes in today and says, I know I didn't have that much water use, we go, well, your previous reading was X and now it's Y, and so Z's the difference. With an AMR system, we can actually go, on Tuesday, you flushed the toilet at 3 a.m. or within that 15-minute time span.
You can actually show them on the screen. You just turn it on.
And the other thing is important to
don't think I wanna
point
see
out to
that.
this is, yeah, there's like a little, for some of us, it's more than once a night. But for, also, it also shows if, let's say, Tom Markham's house, all of a sudden, we can set parameters based on the software, and Tom's 5,000 gallons in 2 days, we know there's a problem.
Or my college-age daughter's home.
I mean, I understand that all too well. And it automatically sets the deal to where our customer service reps can call and say, Mr. Markham, we've noticed there is an extraordinary amount of water being used. You might want to check to make sure you have some sort of leak, rather than wait until he gets his bill and then he freaks out and he goes, and then we go out and we find out, and sure enough, he's got a leak and those type of things. I said, that is a huge benefit to our customers as well.
And I would also add, at Wichita Falls again, the Public Works Director, when they were going through their huge drought that they had, they were rationing water, and he wanted to put, one of the big reasons he put this in was so he could see anybody that was running their sprinklers at 3 a.m. in the morning when they weren't supposed to be running sprinklers. So it's, you can catch water leaks, you'll know if there's a problem immediately. It's a great customer service tool, and an actuality, and really that if someone comes in, it's a immediate screen. You can turn it around and they can see their units. They can see everything on it. So.
Could we not table this till the next meeting or something? Honestly, I don't feel like I know enough about it, and the information I got was not enough. And I feel like this is a big move to.
I understand.
How long have we been working on this?
Since I got here, there was discussion about the AMR system. I believe J.J. Wilson was looking into it, and we had meetings right after I got here. That was in October of 16. So it's been in discussions on the AMR side for quite some time. And what we were looking at as part of an overall energy efficient audit was, like I said, going just beyond the savings that we're going to have with our meters, but with the other things that are involved in the full energy audit as well. So, I mean, there's several ways you can skin a cat, and one of them is just taking out a loan for whatever the meters are going to cost us to, and get them installed, and that's an option too. But this is a program to where we feel like if we can essentially have the program pay for itself and not and have it neutral and not have to worry about taking the hits, that would be a savings as well.
I'll agree with Councilman Gruby. I'm kind of in the same boat. I like the idea of this, and I know it's been going on for a long time with the meters. But either way, we're going to be locked into either it's going to cost us a pretty good chunk of money, or it's going to cost us something significantly more than that over the long run. And I mean, me personally, I'm a fan of solar and things like that, but I know there's a long ROI involved in that, whether it's worth doing or not. I would like more information, a little more time to dig into this before we move forward, but that's just me.
We can certainly provide additional, in fact, we can have it maybe at the next council meeting to have more of a PowerPoint presentation to show exactly, we can break it down. Because we have a huge agenda tonight, that's why we're trying to streamline this, but I have no problem with.
And I'd be curious to see more of the information from Wichita Falls as well.
He's got case studies and white papers that we can look at as well.
We have a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to table. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. We are at item 4F, I believe. Consider approval of the RICO lease agreement and request for authorization to purchase for the RICO lease agreement, RFAP 2019-013. Ms. Marie?
Good evening, all. This is a 48-month lease agreement out of the 15 copiers, 3 of them, they're not on the original lease, and this would get us all in timing. That's why we did the 48 months. 2 of these are at the library, one's in the staff, one's in the public. It also comes with the coin box, and the other one being the treasurer's office. And we have a total of 15 copiers throughout the city. 12 of them are on another lease.
So you're asking that these 3 that are not on the
main lease to be
four-
put
the-
on that 48-month lease, and that way they'll come undue. Plus, we could reach out for better pricing when you have a more quantity. And the 2 at the library, they're costing us more to keep them than what this new lease is going to give us. Plus, we're getting new copiers.
So the amount that on here is 27,000. That's spread out over 48 months, correct?
Yes, monthly.
When does the, okay, we're putting these on a 48-month agreement. Are we looking at 48 months from now to consider all 15, or, okay?
That would put us in line where they would all come up for renewal again.
Any other questions for Marie? For her recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Item 4G, consider approval of Tyler Technologies yearly renewal and request for authorization to purchase for Tyler Technologies, RFAP 2019-012. Again, Ms. Marie?
This is our municipal software that we use throughout the city, finance, payroll, time entry, cemetery records, just on and on. It's a renewal quote for the upcoming 18-19 year.
This is our Encode kind of
Yes.
stuff that,
Tyler Technologies, and it's in code.
any questions for Marie? Any discussion?
How long have we been using this now?
I came in '04 and they were using it. They've added quite a bit. A lot of our third-party software interfaces with it, like our DigiTicket goes into RMS, and RMS interfaces in with this. The kiosk, then they interface in. There's just so many softwares that interface in with our. We're married to them right now, but we are looking at other options on some areas.
Tim, can you explain that to me a little bit better? I mean, I'm not with that.
As far as the
How
Encode-
we're using it, yes.
Huh?
Just how we're using it.
Well, as she said earlier, we use it primarily for pretty much all of our payroll, our utility billing, all of our
Permits.
purchasing. Yeah, finance uses it for pretty much all their record keeping. There's, as you look at it, there's like several modules tied into that. It's not just one. It's not like you just buy an Office, suite and then you get Word and Excel. This thing is, I mean, there's a lot of different, our tickets,
Oh, yeah,
our
it's a-
court records, all those things are tied into this thing, so.
Utilities?
Our utilities, all the things, so. Encode has been around for several years. I've worked for a couple other cities that have Encode and they'd been using it for several years as well. So it's pretty much the nuts and bolts behind the scenes as far as our accounts payable, accounts receivable, like I said before, purchasing, all of it. And it's all tied in together. Time, record keeping, time entry for their employees. And I mean, it's kind of an all-encompassing, but they have the HR module is a part of it as well. So it's all tied in together.
This is also cloud-based, so we're not managing servers, trying to keep all this information local or anything like that.
We do have the server that all this relies on, but I have a disaster recovery backup for this as well.
But this is a standard contract we've been bringing to council every year for.
Many, many years. I said I came in '04 and they've had it since then.
Yep.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Motion?
Second.
And a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is 4H. Consider application for appointment to the Board of Adjustment. Mr. Matthew,
Yes, sir. Mayor, Council, good evening.
good evening.
So in our Code of Ordinances, one of our advisory boards for you all is the Board of Adjustment, a 5-member board. They take care of things like variances and exceptions to our planning and zoning regulations, appeals to decisions that I may make or community development employees may make. So one of the members of the Board of Adjustment has moved out of the city limits, and it's required that it's made of city residents. So there's one application for appointment for your consideration. And also attached in your packet is the chapter that specifies Board of Adjustment regulation.
Any questions for Matt? You've seen the attached application and the recommendation for the appointment to the Board of Adjustment. Any questions? If not, entertain a motion.
And it will be a 3-year appointment, in case that's not understood.
I'll move to approve Billy Blackburn as the appointment.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4I, consider approval of ordinance 1859, an ordinance to amend State Statute 156.061 streets and State Statute 156.062 alleys from all-weather surface to sealed surface, providing for an emergency. Matt?
Yes, so in our city code of ordinances, currently allowed for emergency access and alleyway right-of-ways within the city limits. It's allowed to have an all-weather surface or gravel surface. So these two sections, there's a red line copy of the ordinance on what I proposed for changes, as well as the clean copy of the ordinance. So on the red light ordinance, you'll just see the few changes that I suggested after talking with the fire marshal and Public Works on changing that all-weather and gravel language to a sealed surface, which could be, for example, asphalt concrete with grading and compaction below that sealed surface. So this will minimize cost of maintenance and then repair. If explanation on what types of access I'm talking about, I can go into detail, but so I'm here if there are any questions, but basically alleys and streets for changing from gravel to sealed surface.
This might be a question for Marty, but does this address the issue that we came into with the last meeting on that second entrance?
Did you get a yes? Yes.
He did.
What does this do to existing alleys and?
No, only substantially improved alleyways or new alleyways. Like that we saw in a proposed plat
okay.
last month.
Okay. Any other questions for Matt? If not, entertain a motion.
Move to approve ordinance 1859.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, and I can't get it to show here, but do we have an emergency here? Sections?
I can't pull it up either. Do you know what sections?
Section 1 only. Section 2 is the emergency.
Okay.
Move to approve ordinance 1859, section 1.
Have a motion, have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
PDF.
Councilmember Deals?
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries.
Move to approve ordinance 1859, section 2.
Motion and a
Second.
second. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4J,
Thank you.
consider approval of request for authorization to purchase Centus Uniform Company for employee uniforms, RFAP 2019-01. Tim, is there somebody? Cindy? Marty?
I believe it's Marty.
I can speak to it if.
Where's he at? It's all the Public Works uniforms.
I know, I can, I
Marty.
can speak to it a little bit.
Nominate Marty to come up and speak.
So this would be all the uniforms that we use at Public Works. Periodically, we come out for bid and contract, and this is for an RFAP. Am I right? Because I didn't even read this one, it's not mine.
Actually,
now.
If Marty Pope and I are working together to get a bid packet compiled, and I'll get that out at the end of the week. So, on uniforms.
This is not going to be bid out again until September? August.
Yeah.
So it'd be on the September agenda to approve a new bid for uniforms. This is an RFAP for that impending time in between the two. We're into a new budget year, so we have to appropriate new money to pay for the next 2 or 3 months to get us to that point. Apologize for any confusion.
No, I think that's
I'd be happy
what-
to answer a question.
I think that's what the communication referred to, that this was an interim, not an interim, but
Just the end of a
out
contract.
September till we can
Yeah.
receive an award.
So the amounts that are on that second page there, I guess it's second page or third page there, that's per month, or is that for the
I
remainder?
think that's for the,
Byron, can you pull up that page? He's talking about with the prices? I apologize, I don't have a copy of it, so.
I'm assuming it's that period of time.
Cindy, are those per month?
I think that's probably for you.
Per year, sorry.
It's just that contract price is what it is.
And it'd be prorated over the next couple of months. And
Until such time we have a new vendor in place.
I'll move to approve RFP 2019-01 with the prices remaining as is.
I second it.
have a motion and have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4K, consider authorization to submit a notice of intent, NOI, to apply for hazard mitigation funds through the OK Emergency Management for funding to purchase and install a generator system at the new Emergency Operations Center at 5861 Cessna Drive. Ms. Becca.
Okay, and I'm here representing James, and I think, is Kenneth here?
Yeah.
Okay, in case you have questions further than what I'm going to say. Oklahoma Emergency Management does have some funding available, and we want to submit a notice of intent to their office, and then if they approve, they would invite us to apply. The cost of the generator, including all the items to complete the installation, is $40,000. $30,000 of that would be funding from the mitigation program, and $10,000 cash would be our match. And James has said that that is in the budget. So we are requesting for the approval to submit the NOI, notice of intent.
Becca, this is for their new building
Yes, ma'am.
that we
Yes,
can
the
finally
new
get
Emergency Operations
completed.
Center. It's actually the regional Emergency Operations Center at the airport. Correct.
I make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4L then is to request authorization to apply for hazard mitigation grant funding for a generator for the Durant Regional Emergency Operations Center. Do we have a motion?
And I would like to request, and I talked to James about this as well, that you add in the word contingent, so contingent upon the state's approval inviting us to apply. We're requesting your authorization for that.
Will you say that one more time?
Request authorization contingent upon Oklahoma Emergency Management's approval of the NOI.
Move to approve upon state approval of the NOI, contingent upon.
To apply for the grant, yes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. 4M, consider approval of a request for authorization to purchase RFAP number 2019-025 for the purchase and installation of a new 500 HP variable frequency drive VFD on the number 3 pump located at the Headworks facility, and consider approval of the supporting budget supplement.
I'm back, and I am
You're back,
prepared for
Mario.
this one.
Okay.
This one was my plan all the time. So after 14 years of service, we have lost a 500 horsepower variable frequency drive and pump, and this is kind of a big piece of machinery at our headworks. Downtown at the Public Works Station, we have pumps that pump water out to the wastewater treatment plant. And if those pumps aren't functioning, that means the water doesn't go out there. It stays here and it starts backing up. So that's a bad thing. We've already requested a couple quotes. Those quotes are both in here. It's kind of an emergency situation, but it arose at a time when we could get to council. We didn't have to go around you and come back with a supplement afterwards. It is something we do need to have resolved really quickly, and so we're moving forward as quick as we can. We got 2 bids. The second one, the lowest one, was the 46,000, or it's 45,000 and some change, 496.55. So we're asking for your approval on RFAP for $46,000 to replace this, and then a consideration of that budget supplement to get the money in the right place to cover that.
Service Electric is the bidder.
Yes, that's the winning bidder.
And Tom, question for you. We have an RFAP to consider along with a budget supplement. Can those be done in one motion?
They probably need to be in 2.
Okay. We can do that.
I'll move to approve RFAP 2019-025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries.
Move to approve the supporting budget supplement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Consideration to approve, this is 4N. Consideration to approve Resolution 2018-19 to support a 2018 Water Smart grant application through the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation for automated meter reader equipment. Is that Becca?
Yes. Okay. Choctaw Nation contacted the city about an opportunity for funding through the Water Smart Small Scale Water Efficiency Program. And this would provide a 25% grant, which is usually, it's opposite what we're normally used to purchase 300 meters in a targeted area. And Jay and Marty Cook have identified an area that would be a great way to start with our AMR program. And Choctaw Nation is providing the consultant that's actually going to write the application. However, it will be submitted by the city, and it does not require any cash match. So the $125,000 match would be our crews installing the meters purchased with the grant funds. If you have any other questions, Jay could probably answer that.
How many meters would it be?
300.
No, come on.
And if the council moved forward, and I'm sure this might come up on, if we did the program to do all of them, this would simply be subtracted from the total package. So we wouldn't, these 300 would be replacing old meters, and then if we went forward with Amerisco and did all the meters, this would be 300 less that we would have to purchase.
So you said we already had 2, this would be about 500?
Yeah, so it would take us up to about 500.
Okay.
Tim, it would be the same type meters that this other company is
Yes,
talking about?
yeah. So we want to stay consistent, and
Not to mention the area that we targeted is within about a 3-block radius. So that'll give us a nice little, basically a microcosm to look at how well these AMRs work, so.
and this is, I mean, even if we get up to 500, we're still less than 10% of all the meters, but it would be, like Jay said, it'd be nice to be able to see the system all into place together as a test, if we're awarded the grant.
Are these types of meters going from one manufacturer to another? Does it all, like if this business goes out and we go to another AMR type
No, we're not locked in that situation. There's a lot of different AMRs. Now, what we're typically using, without getting into the crazy details, is a Neptune Mach 10 meter, which is also compatible with an Elster Evo. So those two can communicate with each other, no problem, on the same system. So
If I want to keep one of those old slow ones, can I keep one of those?
I'm sure.
Are you in the target area?
I like the slow ones.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Where's the target area? Who didn't tell us?
Any more questions for Jay or for Becca?
And that is a good point, and I mention it in the actual resolution that it will be Neptune compatible. So if there's, ever a need to purchase a different kind, as well as when we bid, we cannot specifically name the type. It would have to be something compatible to what we already have in place. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but they said it would probably be funded later this fall, and then we would have 2 years to complete the project. So Jay, that would mean your crews could have some time for installation.
Right.
Okay?
Move to approve resolution 2018-019.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
City Attorney? Do I have a conflict if I vote on this?
I don't think so.
Aye. Motion carries. Move to item number 4O. Consider authorization for city attorney to enter Vulcan Construction Materials LLC versus City of Tishomingo, CV-17-08, as, I'm not even going to try to say this, amicus curiae, and prepare a brief on the issues on behalf of the City of Durant. Tom?
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. You might remember a few months ago when the council passed an ordinance that addressed public nuisance for those that might conduct any activity that would affect our public water supply. Specifically, companies that mining companies that might affect the Arbuckle Simpson Aquifer and our water supply out of the Blue River. The city of Tishomingo has a very similar ordinance, and not all that long after the passage of that ordinance, prior to their actual enforcement of anything, they got sued by a couple of mining companies. And they also are in the Arbuckle Simpson Aquifer and specifically Pennington Creek. So this lawsuit has been going on for a while, and it's coming to trial in September. And because of our similar status, they have requested that we join them, not in the lawsuit itself as a party, but as to file a brief, an amicus curiae brief, that's basically a friend of the court brief to outline any issues that we have that are similar, and it's often helpful for a judge to see that this is not a, that the City of Tishomingo lawsuit is not a one-off lawsuit. This is a lawsuit that has a further reaching effect than just City of Tishomingo and these mining companies. But what it might do for Durant is, because the issues are so similar, if we can make our case known, our status known in this lawsuit, if the lawsuit goes the way that it probably should and in favor of the City of Tishomingo, basically those issues have already been decided. So that if we get in that same position where we either get sued by one of the mining companies or we have to bring a suit against one of the mining companies for disturbing our water supply, those issues have already been decided. We've already weighed in, and it may reduce the chances that we have to actually get involved in a lawsuit or eliminate them altogether. So it's up to the council, and the reason this is before council is because there will be some cost associated with the filing of a brief. There's been some agreement by the Choctaw Nation to assist in the cost of that. Obviously, they're a big player here, and they've got a lot at stake because they buy water from the city of Durant. So whatever affects our municipal water supply affects them. They've agreed to share some of the cost of this brief. I would not expect that. You'd probably be looking at maybe between $5,000 and $10,000 total for this project.
I know we have to think in terms of cost, but I think it's incumbent upon us as stewards of this city to be a part of protecting our water supply source as well as we can. Any questions for Tom regarding this action?
Did you say the Choctaws were going to help?
That's correct. They have agreed to assist in the cost with
Do you
this.
know how much?
They said up to $5,000.
So that would still leave us $5,000.
Potentially.
I don't like that word, Tom, potentially. So we possibly, you don't know, right?
I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take. Now, what I do know is that because this lawsuit has been going now for a couple years, there's a lot of the research that's already been done. This isn't something that we're going to have to start from scratch. So I would say somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 total.
And Tishomingo's not going to help us financially. They just want us to do a brief.
That's correct. We're not a party to it. We are weighing in, hoping to assist the court in their decision. And while our issues are largely the same as the city of Tishomingo, we're not weighing in as a party with them in the lawsuit. You see, this is real common in litigation that involves both public and private entities. You might have let's say a cell phone company that's in a litigation with a property owner. If it's something that case may have far-reaching effects, you may have other cell phone companies that get involved and file briefs that are on the side of the one that's in the litigation. You may have groups of landowners that file other briefs just to show the court that, hey, this is a bigger deal than just this one case, and kind of keep that in mind when you're making your decision, Judge.
Basically, we don't have a dog in that fight, but we're wanting to help them. Is that kind of?
Yes. I mean, regardless of how their lawsuit turns out, it's not going to immediately affect us. But what we will be able to look to, and what the mining companies that are upstream from us will be able to look to, is that lawsuit, because the way that lawsuit is decided, and if it goes up on appeal, the way it's decided is going to directly affect us and our water rights. So it may be a way to sort of head off these issues at the past and weigh in on those issues without having to get sued first to do it. So
This essentially would help Tishomingo prevail, correct?
that would be the design, yes.
And if it doesn't, we could potentially be in the same situation as Tishomingo, where now we're not filing a brief, we're actually a party to it. We're going to incur the expense of a lawsuit
Sure.
against the mining companies.
Sure.
We're basically, sounds like going over for moral support. Is that what it?
To some degree. I mean, yes, moral support, legal support, saying, hey, there's other people out here, there's other entities that are in this same boat. And Judge, we want you to rule in favor of the city of Tishomingo, and here's why. And so it's bigger than just a single Johnston County case. It's the entire Arbuckle-Simpson Aquifer.
We're looking at our primary water source, and it's not like it's just, the cell phone thing is a good example, but I mean, to me, our water, we've got to protect it, and I think this is an important reason to jump on.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Nay.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4P, consider authorization to begin process of vacating alley adjoining the south side of Block 204, lots 1 and 2. Is that Matt?
Mr. Mayor, this is mine also. This is sort of preliminary, and I apologize, there's not a map in here with this, but there's some indication, and there's conflicting documents, but there's some indication that there may still be an existing alleyway in the area just south of where the Boulder Motel existed. So if you think of that alleyway that would run east and west, just immediately on the south side of the Boulder Motel going into the shopping center. It appears on some documents as if that alleyway still exists on some surveys, and that it has been vacated as you go west. You get to the edge of the Boulder Motel, that alleyway no longer exists. And then there's some documents that say it doesn't exist anywhere west of 9th Street. So there's been a request by the developer that issue be addressed, and I'm just asking for permission from the council to start looking at that, and if that alleyway needs to be vacated, I'll bring it back again before the council, have a chance to actually pass an ordinance and vacate the alleyway, but just looking for authorization to sort of look at that to vacate it if need be.
So you're talking about the strip of land behind where the motel was, but still in front of where the movie theater and...
It actually would run, if you are in the section that appears to be an alleyway on some of the surveys, traveling west from 9th Street, you would run right into the parking spaces in front of the old movie theater bowling alley area. The parking spaces themselves that run across the north side of that shopping center would be the alleyway. So, but it stops there at the edge of the shopping center building. It's only about 167 feet from 9th Street west. That appears to still, on some surveys, be an existing alleyway.
So once we actually vacate that just becomes a part of that property?
That's correct.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. If council has no objections, I'm going to go to item number 6 under information items. We may have some department heads that either we have some questions for, or they may need to go home. Council members have any questions, requests for any of the department heads under information items? You guys are always very patient. Appreciate you being here every time, standing by. Any questions? Okay. If not, that will take care of item number 6 under information items. Also, if there are no objections, I'm going to let's take an actual 5-minute break if there are no objections.
It's something I don't ever do.
You will. I'm not done yet. Good
Brian, are we on? We're rolling, okay. Okay, we are officially still in session. We'll pick up with item number 4Q. And that is a presentation by City Engineer Brandon Wall regarding infrastructure. Tim, I'm going to let you introduce that.
Yes, Mayor and Council, before you tonight, we have a report from our City Engineer Brandon Wall. Councilmember Hitchcock asked a month or so ago of a summary of a lot of the talk over the past few months of streets brought up a lot of question about other infrastructure needs such as the water, the sewer plant, our drainage, our lines, a whole lot of stuff out there. And he said, what do we need right now and the next coming 5, 10, 20 years from now? So I tasked our city engineer to formalize it with a report, which you have before you tonight, kind of giving you a look at and he did an excellent job of summarizing, like say from 0 to 2, our immediate needs, 2 to 5, and so forth. And from there, I'll let Mr. Wall go through the report and answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Good evening.
Good evening, Brandon.
I think where we'll start is just kind of start with specific pieces of infrastructure and just kind of march through them individually before we actually talk about the 0 to 2, 2 to 7, 7:15, and 15:30, and then out longer. And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but if anybody has a question, just speak up and we can talk about any of this as specific as you want to talk about. So we'll start off with a water plant, and what we tried to do on each item was look at the capacity, what your current usage is, what your future projected usage is, and then what your short and long-term maintenance needs are at each facility. So your water plant, you have a 10 million gallon a day water plant with capacity to treat 12 million gallons. Right now, your current max day is 6.72 million gallons, so you're using around 56 to 67% of your plant typically. Your 2050 projected demand on your water plant is under 10 MGD, 9.89 MGD. So you have the projected 20-year, even out to 2050 to meet your demand. 2050 projected acre feet, that's how much your usage is out of the lake. 6,700 acre feet out of your 12,000 acre feet you currently have. That's about 54% of your usage. So you see on your water plant in terms of where you are on capacity, you're in good shape on your water plant capacity-wise. Your water plant also has no DEQ violations. It's the longest running operational surface water plant in the state of Oklahoma without a violation.
Good job, Philip.
And the plant is in good operational condition. I'd say most of it's in excellent operational condition, but you've got a lot of things out there that are going to have to be addressed, and they are starting to run a lot of the plant manually just because of the age of a lot of the equipment in the plant. So our two pressing issues, and we've already talked about the fluoride treatment addition, which council's approved, and that's at DEQ for permitting. You also have, you failed a cryptosporidium test in your raw water 4 years ago, And at some point in the future, you'll probably have to start treating for cryptosporidium with ultraviolet light, 622,000. So those needs together, are in the 800,000 range. You've also got some upgrades that are going to have to take place at some point in the future, and we'll go through projecting when those are when we start talking about your needs projections. But rehab of your Blue River intake, you have a second river intake on the Blue River that's not functional, that needs to be rehabbed. Security system, new raw water pumps, replacement of your rapid mix, filter console, electrical rehab, media replacement, a new backwash system, and a new treated water transfer system. Now, some of your operators probably disagree with where I put some of these, because I know Philip told me before the meeting, hey, you have some of those long-term that we're going to have to do quicker than that. So again, this is my projection, and some of your operators may rearrange these a little bit, but your future upgrades, you're looking at about a $2 million future upgrade. Really long-term needs would be an additional water source, either ground or surface. So what you have at the water plant in terms of the long-term needs, about $2.77 million. And that pretty much gets you everything we know of that needs to be taken care of, both on an immediate basis and kind of a longer-term basis. So probably of all your components, the water plant's in the best shape and has the lowest overall capital need to kind of move it forward into the future over the next 30 years. So your wastewater plant, your plant has a design average daily flow, and that's what we look at when we're talking about wastewater, is the average daily flow of 3.55 million gallons per day. Right now, you're running at 3.04 million gallons a day, or about 86%. So you have about 500,000 gallons in capacity remaining. So based on the rate that you've been going, that's about 3 to 6 years. It's about when your capacity at the wastewater plant will run out. Now, if you look at sludge handling capacity, and that's the byproduct. We have two things out of wastewater. It's the water we send to the creek and the byproducts, which is the sludge. And you guys right now, you can't get rid of the sludge that you're producing. So you don't have any capacity left on the sludge. In terms of your 2050 projected average day, you're looking at, around 5 million gallons a day, depending on what growth rate you use in terms of some of the real recent growth that we've seen that's really kind of skyrocketed, but somewhere around 5 million gallons a day. Luckily, your plant has no DEQ violations, and it's got some maintenance issues, but it is in great operational condition, just like your water plant. But you do have a pretty substantial inflow and infiltration water coming into your plant, and due to that, you're approaching capacity, and they're starting to see a little bit of trouble meeting their discharge limits. So your very pressing issue out there, probably one of the most pressing needs that you have, is your sludge handling issue. We have to do something about the sludge handling, and that's about a $2.29 million project. Another pressing issue, not quite as tomorrow as the sludge handling issue, is your expansion to 5 million gallons a day. It's about a $9 million project. And the other additional upgrades we'll have to do at some point in the future: additional grit removal basin, thickener, additional primary clarifier, additional filter, digesters, post-SBREQ basin, and a complete electrical rehab. So you're looking at a additional future cost of about $7.52 million. So we would call the long-term need at your wastewater plant about $18.76 million. So we'll move on to your water distribution system. You don't have any violations cited by DEQ, but there are areas in the city where you don't meet minimum DEQ fire flow requirements. And we did a fire flow study on the whole system about 5 years ago and came up with a list of about 30 projects to get the whole city kind of back into compliance with fire flow. And that's what we've projected. Your immediate needs as far as your fire flow projects was $3.875 million. Your water loss, and I'm not sure where you are right now, but your water loss was getting up close to 50%. You have an issue with water meter age, and then you also have a tower that needs painting, kind of has some issues currently that's kind of currently facing you. So as far as future upgrades, there are some additional fire flow improvements to get your whole city over the minimum fire flow threshold. About 12.2 million is what those are estimated at. Water leak detection study, that's currently funded. It's on hold right now, kind of pending city staff availability to assist us getting that going forward. Heard a lot about this tonight, but AMR meter conversion is definitely in the future upgrades. You've got a tower that needs to be cleaned and painted, and then you've got leak repair, which will mostly be done by city forces. We estimate total long-term need on your distribution side of about 18 million as well. Wastewater collection system, you have no DEQ violations. You do have a tremendous amount of rainwater and groundwater into the sewer. During heavy rains, your plant flow increases 400%. And that's the reason that they begin to have trouble meeting limits. So as far as upgrades needed, the first thing that would need to be done is a complete sewer system study. That's around 700,000. And then sewer repairs are what's found in the 700,000. And based on that 400% and what we see in other towns, we estimate there's probably around $10 million in repairs to the sewer system to get that 400% down to something kind of reasonable. So estimated long-term need of the wastewater collection system, about 10.7 million. So city streets, we've talked about city streets a lot over the past months, but your main contracted immediate needs, Maine University Radio in Washington, that was the $14 million. You do have the additional contracted needs, South 9th, additional sections of University and portions of Maine for about $9 million. We talked about the 500 blocks that were in the recent bond issue of $6 million. Then you have about another 750 blocks, which we estimated about 8.85 million. So total estimated long-term need on the streets, 37.85 million. Moving on to stormwater drainage. Your major upgrades needed a citywide stormwater study. We got a proposal on that from a company fairly recently. It was about $950,000 to study the entire city stormwater. And then they kind of gave us kind of a ballpark number based on what they see in other places, about $8 million probably to implement the results of the stormwater study. So total estimated long-term need, about 8.95 million. So moving back to the first page and the long-term needs that we just talked about, you see a total would be a 30-year long-term need, about $96.31 million. We tried to look at what your 0 to 2, 2 to 7, 7, 15, and then 15 to 30-year needs are in terms of what's most critical. So in terms of your 0 to 2-year needs, and obviously the sludge handling at the wastewater plant, the water loss study, which is currently funded, and your critical fire flow improvements on the distribution side. So that comes to about 6.17 million on your 0 to 2-year needs. 2 to 7-year needs, the immediate water treatment plant upgrades, wastewater capacity expansion, phase 1 city streets, the stormwater drainage study, phase 2 of the water loss study, a water distribution system upgrade to AMRs, wastewater collection study, and additional fire protection improvements totaling just under 42 million. And your 7 to 15-year needs, your collection system upgrade, the additional wastewater treatment plant upgrade, and your additional fire protection upgrades totaling about 24 million. And of course your 15 to 30 would be the phase 2 of the city streets, and then actually upgrading your stormwater system, totaling about 26.8 million. So as far as 30 to 50, based on what kind of growth you see, you could have an additional wastewater treatment plant capacity expansion. You know, we projected 30 years that you're right up against your water treatment plant capacity, so you could have an expansion of your water plant, and you could also be looking at some point looking for an additional water source. So that's kind of our summary in a very quick nutshell. Now I could talk about any of these items specifically and probably talk about each one of them for an hour, but that's not what any of us want to do. So happy to answer questions about any of the specific items or just the overall plan or whatever pleases the council.
we just need 96 million? Is that-
Well,
That doesn't account for inflation, correct?
No, that does not account for inflation.
I, for one, and on behalf of the council, appreciate, Brandon, you putting this together, and the Vice Mayor requesting this, I think has opened a lot of our eyes, and I just, it's a challenge, but I'm looking forward to us sitting down and working on this and getting some things started that, you know, the new wastewater treatment plant, I say new, it's what, 14 years old now?
It was actually scoped to be a 20-year plan, and its life to expire in 2021. So it's right on schedule for what they projected. They projected to last 20 years.
Yeah. But I think at the time we thought that was a long time. And it's, you know, it's getting here early. And I think in terms of those, the water treatment, the wastewater treatment, those things that we can look at capacities that we certainly don't need to look at anything less than 30, and if it's possible to even look at longer out than that. As we begin studying this stuff. Any other questions or comments for Brandon? Appreciate certainly the time you've put in this and the effort. Tim, you have anything to add?
No, I thank Brandon for short notice to get this up, and like I said, kind of eye-opening when you take a look at it, because like I said, our focus over the past 2 or 3 months has been looking at doing some street repairs, but we do know we've got other needs out there, and they're going to continue. And for us to thrive as a community, as a growing community, we're going to have to take a real hard look at, you know, trying to figure out ways of funding these improvements. Obviously, we know we're not going to, you know, do 96 million anytime in the next year or so, unless Brandon wins the Powerball, and we'll be doing it. But I think, like I said, it's something that was just kind of eye-opening for me too, and I'm sure Councilmember Hitchcock's sitting on the beach right now watching this live streaming and enjoying the report too. So.
Well, you know, it was actually eye-opening for us as well, because we've obviously been all the way through all of your plants, your stormwater side, and all portions of your system, but I've never actually sat down and said, I wonder what they all total.
Yeah.
And just kind of put the pencil to it.
Well, and you made reference a couple of times, particularly on the water and the wastewater, and I'd even add James Young into this formula and others, but no DEQ violations and things being produced in a not only a timely but ample time frame and for the citizens, and so a lot of this is dependent upon and contingent upon city employees, city staff, and those folks that run that, and I think that your references to those 2 or 3 things speak highly of our folks, our equipment, and how they take care of it, and the pride they take in providing good water, the wastewater treatment, and as James works the best he can with his budget, our sanitation department. But I think, like Tim said, some of this is an eye-opener, and we've got to begin addressing some of these more urgent needs, and we are addressing those as we speak. Even Tim is, along with Marty, working on the wastewater treatment concern issues and some funding possibilities there. potentially have some meetings regarding that, so. He and his staff and folks will continue to work on that, so. Any other comments, guys? Gals? Brandon, thank you very much,
Thank you.
sir.
Appreciate Brandon.
We will move to item number 5 under public hearings. 5A is to consider approval of PC 2018-11, a final plat for Westgate Addition located west of the intersection of University Boulevard and North 49th Avenue. And Mr. Matthew?
Yes, sir. Hello again. So this property is 4.8 acres, zoned R2, two-family residential district. But what's being proposed is single-family neighborhood. And again, it's located west of the intersection of University and North 49th. The application was complete. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended its approval. And there weren't any citizen concerns at the time of the memo, but since then there's been one brought up. The infrastructure is there. The aerial shot that's on the screen doesn't show any pavement, but there is a street. Drainage has been dug out. There's a detention basin that's on the southeast corner of the property. I believe the plat should be part of the packet as well, if we want to take a look at that. I believe the citizen with a concern is present as well as the applicant himself. And I'm here if there are any questions.
Again, this is our public hearing portion, and anyone in the audience, and of course council, if you have any questions or concerns or issues, you'll have the opportunity to voice those, whether they're in favor of or in support of or in opposition to this consideration. I have a question. Did I hear you say R2, but it's going to be single-family dwellings? Or?
Correct. As far as I understand it, when the preliminary plat was submitted 2 years ago, 2016, that around that time there was a conversation about multifamily, but duplexes, for example, but that changed in the platting process. And the plat that was submitted to us for this portion and for this agenda item is the same design that was presented in the preliminary plat stage 2 years ago.
Other questions? Any questions from council members? If not, anyone in the audience wish to speak? And if so, please come forward and state your name and address, please.
My name is Betty Cockclaser, and I live at 1008 North 49th. I seem to be coming before y'all an awful lot. But I am concerned about the storm drainage that's coming down. I bought 10 acres out there on the corner on University and 49th in 1970. I've sold 5, and the other 5 is just about washed down the creek. So I have a problem with water coming across and coming down. I also have, and I don't have anything against the builder, I just have, there's going to be a builder put 9 houses right north of me that's going to put more water. They won't be on me, hopefully it'll go on down the creek. I've had overflow in my house several times, not from the water drainage, but from 49th where it stops up, and I've spent several $1,000s, or my insurance has. So I'm saying that to have another, it don't perk out there. People just don't understand that it don't perk. The 49th Street, University Street all comes to the corner. And then from the corner, it goes down a creek and goes behind my house and goes on down and goes on out, I guess to Heritage. I don't know where it goes to. But then it comes right behind where the dentist, I approved of the dentist. None of us said that wasn't a great thing. But behind where his office is at, there's the creek, and it comes over on us. It comes down and overflows and comes all the way down, and it just washes everything away. We've built up, and it still comes down. And there is, at Remington, there is a retention. I've never seen water in that retention yet. Water never gets there. It just flows around it. So I know this is going to have a retention, but we keep building there and building there. And when I bought the property in '70, I went to the center of the road on 49th and University and bought that property. And somehow or other, I didn't say anything, but somehow or other it's got to where now you've taken part of the road of the 49th, and you've taken that and have put pavement on it to where there's a yield sign even there now, where you don't have to go down there and stop. You just yield and come out on 49th. And I just don't want to give up any more of my property. I don't want to give it up to where that it's going to go down the creek. So I disapprove of building more houses out there. And we're going to have 9 right there. We've got an apartment complex up there. That university on coming down to 49th has water in it continuously all the time. You can't go down by there, that there's not water flowing down there, and comes down to the corner of 49th. I've seen the workers out there on 49th in the 49th and University. I've seen them where I can just barely see their head. They dig it out. You can just see when they go by there. So we have too much water coming down there now. It comes from the Masonic Lodge, and it comes from the railroad. And it comes right down to that corner. And then that's where it goes in and starts trying to find a way to run. So right now, we've got water when it rains, just a little bit. We have water running down through there. So I am saying that we need to find someplace else besides 49th and University to build. So, or else we're going to have to get a shovel. Or I'm losing my acres there. It just goes down the creek. Got a council member that lives right out there. And it's going to be right there. I don't know how he feels about it, but there's about 15 or 20 of us that don't want any more building out there right on our corner. We've had enough, and we don't want any more. And we're here to tell the council that we disapprove of it, and we're going to fight it. That's all I got to say. Thank you, sir. Thank y'all for listening to me.
Thank you, Betty. Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience? We'll close the public hearing portion of PC 2018-11. Any further questions for Matt?
Matt, where is Blackburn's building out there from her?
Do you happen to know the property address? As I live here longer, I'm going to know more, but Blackburn.
Isn't it just right up the road?
Just south of there.
Oh, what was a church? Okay. Oh, beyond that. Okay. This is northwest, maybe a half a mile as a bird flies, and you can't see. You can see just in the lower portion of the right-hand side of the screen is the intersection of University and 49th, and it'll be however much distance, quarter mile maybe, to the south of that intersection. Hopefully, does that give you a frame of reference? Mm-hmm. The dentist office, you can see the brighter pavement at that University and 49th intersection.
Did Brandon already leave?
I'm sorry?
Did Brandon already leave?
The applicant is present.
Derek's here.
Well, that's all right. To answer her question is, I trust me, I know exactly what she's talking about, and went round and round and finally had Brandon explain it to me that essentially where Derek is, he's had this engineered, and there's a retention pond. The dentist office, it's engineered, and there's actually one in the front, one in the back. J. Mock did one. Every area that we have engineered where they have those certainly doesn't resolve it, but it does help it, because if you look at the piece of property that's right there in the corner of the dentist office, when it rained before, it all just went in the ditch and went right to you. And some of it still will, but a lot of it now is getting held in the retention pond, so it slows it down and regulates it. And with Derek's, I know you've got one in the front right up by the street. I'm not as familiar because I don't always get to experience it firsthand once it crosses over 49th, once it gets to your side, because it gets into private property. I can say further upstream around my way where everything's been engineered more, I guess, not a whole lot, but more. It has somewhat helped the process with more things coming in. I know with what J. Mott did across the street, it didn't resolve it, but it certainly has improved it. So that's I've kind of left it to good faith that what Brandon told me is right, and what I've experienced so far from what Brandon's told me, it's living up to what he's told me. So more property that we have that's engineered to handle that water, it'll help. I'm not saying that if they developed it all, it would resolve your problem by any means, but I don't know that it would necessarily hurt it. And that's not to say that it won't rain for the next 6 weeks nonstop and flood you again, but that was kind of the answer that I got, and that's what I've been going by, that it's engineered and designed to at least not increase the problem, I guess, if that makes sense.
Can I ask Matt a question real quick?
Absolutely.
Matt, in your long-term plan, is total water flow across the city part of that plan?
Yes, sir.
So that'll solve the problem long-term, because right now we're doing it piecemeal, and there's no long-term plan for water flow across the city. We're going to have downstream flooding from Larkspur over time because of the development going on up there. I mean, that's a continuing problem, and it's going to get worse.
And that was one of the last things that Brandon went over, is that long-term stormwater drainage upgrading plan. I think the plan, $800-something thousand, and that's just the plan. Of course, there's a lot of work that goes behind that, but it would help. It would help resolve issues like this. So when Derek, whoever comes along, is developing something, it should fall right into the plan.
Right, and if I could add to that, the comprehensive plan itself will be the guiding document to change regulations that the citizens and the city would like to see changed. Regulatory, development modifications, so that we think of things in a more holistic perspective, as opposed to looking at one particular property and what the drainage was before development and after development should be the same. And that's all well and good, and that's how we look at it now, but that is isolated to just site by site, pretty much.
I would like to say, even though it's closed, that there's a brick home that's right directly across from me, and it comes up into her yard, almost into her house right now. And the water flows, because it comes from down Parnell Drive, and it comes right on down, and it comes almost to her back of her house. I walked over there and was talking to her, and she told me that it came in her yard and almost up to her, coming in her back door right now. And nothing has changed. It's still coming down there. Water just flows down there to that deal, because there's a creek that's coming every direction there, and it comes to 49th, and it's going to flow there. I don't know what we can do about it. I'm not an engineer, but it comes to that corner there. And the more we put there, as I said, the retention wall in Remington has never had water in it. Matt can tell you that. It's never had water come in. So it flows to the best places it can go, and it can't get in there. It's just a hole for kids to fall in up there. So I don't know what we're going to do. I'm not smart enough to do that. I just know that I'm losing all the time. I lose property as it goes down the creek. And it's not, I own the corner right across from the dentist's office, and it just keeps washing away. There's not going to be there very long. So we just keep losing, I lose that corner all the time from water flows. I'm sorry. Sit down.
Any other questions for Matt from council? We have closed the public hearing portion. Matt, do you have anything to add?
I do not. Again, the design presented in the final plat tonight is the same that was presented 2 years ago in the preliminary plat. I feel like that might need to be restated.
So we're considering PC 2018-11, which is a final plat for the Westgate addition, right? Are we out of time for a motion?
I know going back to my situation, because I know you are familiar with it, I reluctantly agreed to the development going across the street because I was in the same situation. I didn't know if it was going to make it better or not. And, you know, I've trusted what Marty and what a bunch of other people have told me, and especially Brandon, from an engineering perspective, that if it's engineered and it's, at least in this situation, we know because we've had other developments where it has changed, but this one hasn't, that I hope it's something that helps. And I know you're in a unique situation because you've got it coming down University, both directions, and I think they're both equally as bad. And then you also have it coming down Cornell, and I hope that this is something that will gradually help as it's developed. And hopefully, if we've got the money, we'll do a drainage study and start to do more drainage, because I think that's a lot of it, is something as simple as working on the ditches and cleaning out drainage. But it does get into a challenging situation because I see what it does in the right of way down the sides of the highway, but then it cuts across your property onto private property. So I'm not sure what all it does down there, and I know that creates a challenging situation for, you know, who's responsible for what, because it's on private property. But I hope this is something that helps if it passes, that it helps their situation. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Nay.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Item 5B, public hearing, 2018 Land and Water Conservation Fund application, requesting funding for Lloyd Plyler Park improvements. Becca?
No, we're all tired, but if you could bear with me for 5 minutes, this will help us compete in our grant application. During 2009 to 2012, we utilized 2 separate grant application or funded awards to make improvements to Lloyd Plyler Park. And I think there's a diagram up there. It used to be the American Legion Park, and we were able to make it a youth baseball field and did some major improvements. But we have an opportunity through a current Land and Water Conservation Fund project that's administered by the National Park Service, funded through the Oklahoma Tourism and Recreation Department, to make some additional fundings to this park, or additional improvements, excuse me, to the park. And James and Marty put together the original aerial, and then I went over and kind of diagrammed out for you what we could do with this funding. We're talking about adding a splash pad there, which would be on the west side of the park. The current old Literacy Council building that now the Red Cross is using that for some of their offices, it actually has a restroom that is on the west side or the back side of the building, and Marty Cook and I went and looked at it. There's a steel door that you can enter in from the park side and go into it, and it actually could be utilized as park restrooms there by building a wall that would separate the rest of the building to the restrooms, so we could repurpose those restrooms and make that an ADA accessible bathroom without having to build a totally new building. And Marty feels that the structure is in still good shape. We talked about demolishing the building, but that's not necessary. Then the other grants provided nice concrete sidewalks on the west, south, and some of the perimeters around those baseball fields. But with this grant, we would continue the sidewalks to complete the total perimeter of the park, and add in a parking lot there that James drew in on the east side, some lighting for that parking lot. And then hopefully with the funding, we could build a basketball court, more of a concrete pad, probably not like a dream court at this point, but we could build the pad and maybe build it and they'll come. Maybe they'll add a dream court there. So it would provide some additional parking, because when it is summer baseball time, those parks are highly utilized. There's a parking issue there. So it could be a win-win situation to utilize or increase our parking and utilize this grant for not just the splash pad, but for other things. And this grant requires that the projects increase our outdoor recreation, which is identified in the state comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, which there's projects in there identified such as a splash pad, basketball court, and that kind of thing. So these projects would be eligible within the SCORP is what it's called statewide. This grant is a 50-50 grant. The 50% of our match can be in kind. We are still working on the budget. That's evolving, but before the grant is submitted, we would bring that back before you for any kind of match commitment. Any questions?
We don't know how much the match would be, Becca.
No, because actually there's no cap on this grant. And so I have an email from the state that actually, I asked them, what is an average grant request to help in which we would compete well? And she said anywhere between $250,000 and $500,000. So that's a pretty wide range. So we're working on the budget right now, but before it's submitted, we would bring that back before you to determine what the match would be. But we would try to do as much in-kind as possible.
And in-kind is labor and materials, right?
Labor and equipment.
Labor and equipment.
Right, we would utilize the grant for the materials or equipment necessary, for instance, to build the splash pad. And so, yes. And we've used this grant for Billy Miller Park, Keithley, the splash pad that we now currently have at Keithley Park, the swimming pool improvement several years ago. Currently, our Carl Albert Park improvements are funded with this same grant resource. So the city has been very successful through this funding source.
Is the splash pad, is that something that we're capable of doing in-kind labor-wise?
Well, that's what
we
we
did
talked
the
with
last
the
one.
Public Works guys this week, and it's possible. Okmulgee actually built their own, so we're looking into that, if we can build as much as possible, maybe secure or obtaining a contract to do the surface so that it's the right kind of surface.
So potentially we might get out of it without it costing city anything, dollars-wise, if it was the match.
You mean any cash match
Correct,
for the
yeah,
whole?
yeah.
I think this grant requires a 25% cash match. I don't want to put that totally on record, but I believe that's right. So most of it would be in kind. So there's no action that you have to take tonight committing for any match. Just wanted-
Anyone in this is under public hearing. Anyone in the audience have any comments, questions? Anyone in the audience? Anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the Land and Water Conservation Fund application and ask Becca to get after it.
I'm sorry, what was the last sentence?
Get after it and get this.
Oh, okay. I would like to state, I forgot, there is currently a playground there in a pavilion. The playground is kind of a two-part, and there's no fall protection, what's the word? Fall barrier, thank you, that's there currently. So we would add that in with the project too to make it a safer area for the playground. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have covered item number 6. Under item number 7, citizen comments, we didn't have anybody register. Anything under item number 8, new business? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, we are adjourned out of regular city council session, and let the record show it's 9 o'clock. I'll call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Durant City Utilities Authority of July the 10th, 2018, and ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Trustee
Whoops.
Hawthorne.
Did you need to change the tape?
That's what I was doing.
Okay.
I'm okay. Trustee Hawthorne.
Here.
Trustee Groby.
Here.
Trustee Dills.
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock is absent. Chairman Tomlinson.
Here, for the record, we do have a quorum. Item number 1, consent items. Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 2 requires no action. We'll move to administration items. (3A), consider approval of request for authorization to purchase to Edmund Shade, Inc. for sludge disposal fiscal year 2018-2019, RFAP 2019-014. Marty?
So this is just a standard routine. We have sludge disposal every year. And again, with the opening of the new fiscal year, we need to make appropriate funds available to start considering payment for those disposals this new year. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If anybody'd like extra sludge, we have plenty.
This is an annual renewal, as you just mentioned, SOP stuff.
Right now, I think Espanchade's maybe even still the only people that'll take it, although I hear we got another one coming online before long, so we'll probably do some bidding to get a better deal maybe even, but we don't really have a choice
Yeah.
when nobody else will take it.
What's the authority's pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3B, consider approval of request for authorization to purchase to Southern Oklahoma Regional Disposal, Inc., SORD, for solid waste disposal fees for FY 2018-2019, RFAP 2019-15.
And I might should have made clear, we're going to be here for 2 or 3 of these type items. This is where all of your household trash goes. If we get real specific, I have the experts behind me. But every time we take your household trash to our landfill, we then put it through the transfer station into a truck. We haul it to Davis, Oklahoma, and we pay to dump those fees. And so that's what this is to represent, again, for the new fiscal year.
Again, an annual
Yep.
consideration.
Move to approve.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3C, consider approval of request for authorization to purchase for chemicals to be used at the water treatment plant, RFAP 2019-30.
The longest non-offending water plant in the state of Oklahoma. Would like to continue to do so by having chemicals to be able to treat the water with. Another annual RFAP. It's pretty boilerplate at this point.
Authority's pleasure.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Secretary record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item D, 3D. Consider approval of, is it Hatch? Hawk? Hawk?
It's French.
Service agreement for water treatment plant.
So this agreement is actually to calibrate the lab and inline instruments. They do it on a quarterly basis. It's another routine thing that we do every year, mandated by the DEQ and the EPA that we do this on a routine basis.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, the Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3E, consider approval of service agreement with Evoqua Water Technologies LLC for water treatment plant.
You're doing good. This one's going to give you a chemistry lesson. So this agreement would give us a discount on the sodium chloride that we use to make chlorine dioxide. Water Plant Operator 101. Again, another service agreement for the monthly service on the 2 chlorine dioxide generators. They're supplied by Evoqua, and so then they take care of those.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3F, consider approval of Resolution 2018-18, a resolution to approve water and sewer infrastructure of Country Estates 6.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Kenny.
So this item addresses Country Estate 6, which is surrounded by city. It's a unique island. It's surrounded by city, but it is actually county land. So there was an agreement, and a letter is in your packets between the developer and the city, stating that, and I'd like to introduce the topic, but also we have Public Works that deals more intricately with the maintenance and operations of water sewer. But anyway, a couple years ago, there was an agreement between developer and city to, for the developer to construct up to city specs the water and sewer, and then upon approval by your body, the city will take the water and sewer infrastructure on as city infrastructure.
Let me give it a stab.
Please.
So this is in our water district. Nobody else should provide water to them but us. It's become a customer to us. They also have city sewer all around them, so it benefits them to provide us with their sewer, also benefits us and makes a new customer out of them for us. This is no different than accepting a plat where you would then take over ownership of infrastructure, except for the fact that we won't be taking their streets. We don't care what their lot sizes are. We don't care what their lot length and width and house. We're just taking their water and sewer infrastructure. They will hold on to it for 1 more year under warranty after the adoption of this motion that we're going to pass. And then we would take over at that point maintenance and operations. We know what they're putting in. We've been working with them. We actually signed up with them a year and a half ago so that we could look at it as it was going in. We approve of their standards. We approve of all their materials. And we're happy to accept to gain customers.
Everything is like up to code or meets the
Absolutely.
city, all the code.
Again, this was put in from the beginning with the knowledge that it would be ours. Sometimes people worry about going outside our city boundaries. Well, water and sewer don't have city boundaries. We provide water and sewer outside our boundaries just like we do inside, depending on the location. So these, because of their location, were ideal for us to pick up as brand-new customers. How many lots are there? 45? That's 45 brand-new customers for water and sewer. that we might not have gotten had we wanted to be cruel about it. But to be honest, they're in our water district. We should supply them anyway. And again, we have sewer all around them. It was silly not to. So it also gives them the benefit of using smaller lots so they can get a few more houses on it. Because now that they don't have to go aerobic, they can have normal-sized lots and not half-acre lots.
Questions for Matt or Marty? Not entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none. Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby. Aye. Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We are at adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion, second. Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby. Aye. Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We are adjourned out of the Utilities Authority. Let the record show it's 10 after 9. Call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Durant Airport Authority of July the 10th, 2018, and ask Secretary, call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Here.
Trustee Groby. Here. Trustee Dills.
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock is absent. Chairman Tomlinson.
Here. For the record, we have a quorum. First order of business, the consent docket. We have 1A and B. Any to be removed? Hearing none, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby. Aye. Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 2 requires no action. Under item 3, citizen comments, we had no body register. Moved to item 4, under administration, consider 4A, consider approval of recommendation of the Airport Advisory Board to appoint Mark Lambert to fill the unexpired term of the late Larry Nolan. Marty?
As you know, Mr. Nolan passed away a few months ago. His position on the advisory board is open. Mr. Lambert is available and has filled out an application. He has some history with our airport and our local airplanes. He's also been on this board in the past. He is currently the pilot at First United Bank. I think they're going to be relocating one of their jets back to our airport. So he has asked to be put on the board. The Airport Advisory Board did recommend him unanimously at our last meeting a week ago.
You've heard the recommendation.
Move to approve.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby. Aye. Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4B, consider approval of recommendation of the Airport Advisory Board to name an access road at Durant Regional Airport, Nolan Avenue, in memory of Larry Nolan and his daughter Laura Nolan Koval.
Again, the Nolans have been around our airport, I guess, as long as it's been an airport with their avionics shop and their business in and out. The Airport Advisory Board feels very sensitive about their family out there, and they want to recognize them with this tribute. Do you have a map on this? If you're familiar with the airport, Waldron Drive, right before you get to the terminal building, has a road that shoots off to the north and goes to the back side of that big hangar up into the airport. That is the little stretch of roadway that we are discussing today. It's an unnamed access road. It's never been formally addressed. It doesn't affect anybody's addressing in the area for 911, but it would be a good recognition. And we would buy 2 signs to put on the road and then a third one probably to present them at an advisory board meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, the Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby. Aye. Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4C, consider approval of contract C-2018-36 which is a modification.
Page 2.
Went the wrong way. There it is. Modification of contract C-2017-01 with DW Aviation for management at the Durant Regional Airport, Eaker Field.
So this is a request brought to us by DW Aviation to modify the contract to include a portion of the contract that has been unclear in the past. And through oversight on their side and ours both, we've discovered some wording in the contract that needed to be addressed. Mr. Williams, sorry, I just went blank, is available today, and it'd be appropriate for him to comment on this as well as needed since he's the other signing party. Questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
We've had our city attorney review this change in contract request.
Was this wording in previous versions of contract and somehow got left out, or do we know?
Not in words that we can decipher, to be honest. I've been through the last 5 or 6 contracts, and I can't find where it specifically was included, to be honest, or excluded from requiring to be paid. Now, the simple fact of the matter is that we have been reimbursing him for those costs. He is the one going out after hours. But it was not previously mentioned in a contract that I could find. I think he looked in some old contracts and came to the same conclusion. For whatever reason, it was just kind of understood between the parties as a part of the resource, and should have been, to be honest. Or it may need to be clarified, is kind of what we're looking for here too as well, so.
And that's what I was trying to understand and clarify, gets into.
And to be honest, I don't know that it spells out in here, but we're not talking about a lot of money. We're talking about $1,500, $2,000 a year. You know, I mean, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything. It's just a piece of the contract. It probably wasn't read very carefully and was interpreted wrongly, 10 years ago, and has just been continued to a point where it became habit,
And
to be
Marty,
honest.
this is for call out when he gets up in the middle of the night through the rain, the hail, the
Sure.
sleet, the snow.
By contract, he's required to be at the airport 24/7 within 30 minutes notice. And as a part of that contract, he receives payment and a share of fuel sales and some share in some other costs that we have out there. And it's all pretty well spelled out. I have the contract attached, I believe.
I have a copy.
That particular particle has never been addressed. And that's all I can say. Right, wrong, otherwise. I think that the clarification of it is important as much as anything.
Well, I think the man ought to be paid if he gets up in the middle of the night and goes out, and if we've been doing it, I don't understand. That's kind of set.
Well, we have been reimbursing.
Except for the
It's just
last
not
month,
been
yeah.
identified in the contract. that
Right.
We should, and we've identified that now, and we're amending or
This is a
adding.
proposal to amend, to add that to the contract specifically, so that as the future goes, that we would contain it in there and it would be covered.
We had somebody from staff that was new to the finance.
Yeah.
And it was brought in for reimbursement. She looked at the contract and could not find it in the contract where it says it should be reimbursed. And that was the red flag that's got us here tonight. So that's what happened. It was caught, and
To be honest, just a fresh pair of eyes,
So
like we ask for
I
sometimes.
was trying to understand the difference between the two. So we're talking about facility fees. So something after hours that would be a facility fee would be.
A facility fee is when they use our facility, and that's both of these items are in the fee code, the fee schedule, and that the reason we're addressing both of them is because they're both in the fee schedule, but neither of them are addressed in the contract. So if they want to use our conference room for a meeting, or if they want to use our pilot's lounge for some kind of a function, that's a facility fee, and that's $150 per event, and that comes to us without and has been, but would continue to. It still wasn't addressed, so we wanted to address both items. The call-out fee is $50 for helicopters and $100 for airplanes. Anything after, 5 p.m., 7? After 5 p.m. 5, okay. And he's got to respond within 30 minutes, 24/7. So, it's hard to get a vacation when you do that kind of stuff.
Right.
But the compensation for him was to be able to get that $100 back. And he's been being reimbursed for it. We held June's payment when we discovered, no, I'm sorry, we held May's payment when we discovered that this was an issue. And then June's payment has not actually been turned in yet to be reimbursed. So there's 2 payments there. May's was $500, June's won't be that much, I think $200. So,
So if he gets called out after hours, they pay this fee.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So-
And a lot of them, to be honest, they charge it on their credit card when they buy gas, right?
Right.
I'm gonna pay for my gas, my ice, and my fee all at one time, gets billed out. They don't even see it, they don't even recognize it. But then he brings that charge to us and he requests reimbursement of it. That's how we pay him back for most of those fees that he's getting a piece of, is reimbursement.
I guess that's where I'm confused. So they come, they swipe a credit card, that money goes to the city.
Right.
But then we turn around and got him a check.
Write him a check
How
for
do we-
10% of the fuel, for whatever fees are his by contract. I mean, that's just part of, we are actually paying him and taking the payment from the customer.
Marty, would that kind of be like if you go to a restaurant and you eat and you go up and pay and you give them your credit card and you put the tip on the credit card?
Yeah,
and
you
they
might
turn
buy a
around-
ball cap to go with it or something on your way out the
Or do they turn
door.
around and give the waitress the tip?
Yeah, yeah.
So is fuel sales the same way? So they come up, they pay for fuel?
Yeah, they're paying for fuel with credit cards all the time, and
And
they
it
don't
goes straight to
separate
the-
that in the payment. They separate that after it hits the card machine, you
So when
know?
they get a receipt, they're getting a receipt from the city? Or that's how
yeah,
it show up on a
yeah.
credit card?
So they're basically paying the city, and then we're reimbursing him for his portion.
It's broken down, it would say
And he,
code 04 for like fuel.
Yeah.
Code 02 for fuel.
so we know which things he's being charging us for.
Code will say for call-out fee or facilities fee.
But you'll receive a check, usually one for salary and then one for,
It's usually all on one because we turn out an invoice.
so it's all itemized out. Yeah.
So we're talking about 2 things, the facility fee and the call-out fee, or are we just talking about the call?
As this modification is worded, it would address both items.
Can we address both in one motion?
Oh, yes, yeah, it's all one piece of the contract, it's not a big deal.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion, we go ahead and approve it.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Secretary record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
No.
Trustee Groby,
Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson,
Aye. Motion carries. Anything under new business? Hearing none, have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and a second. The Secretary record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Groby,
Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, we're adjourned. Do you need to change anything?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, that's good. You ready? Okay.
Let the record show it's 9:22. I'll call to order the regular quarterly meeting of the Durant Development Authority of July the 10th, 2018. Ask the Secretary to call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Here.
Trustee Groby,
Here.
Trustee Dills,
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock is absent, Chairman Tomlinson.
Here, for the record, we have a quorum. First order of business, consent items. We have 1A. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Secretary, record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Groby,
Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We have nothing under item 2. Anything under new business? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. The Secretary will record the vote.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Groby,
Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, we are adjourned. We are adjourned. Thank you all.